The Aristotle quote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." Love it. Right. Welcome back. I've been sick, so I haven't been able to work out for over a week. And when I say haven't, probably could have worked out, but really felt kind of awful. There's something going around. I guess there always kind of is in the spring, but took me out of the game for the past week or so. But now we're back in it. I'm very excited. So today we have a leg workout. Starting off with squats 4x5, and then we'll do some kettlebell lunges, and then I'll probably call it, as this is kind of the first workout back into it. But I with the sickness, with being out for a week, and then summer upon us, and traveling and different activities and plans, I am once again reminded of how important and difficult consistency is. It's sometimes it seriously feels like it's impossible to have any form of consistency, which is a little frustrating, considering there was a point in my life where I was extremely consistent, and that's when I saw the best results in the gym. It's when I saw the best results at work. And so I've learned that as you get older and have more pressures on your time, family, kids specifically, work, we just bought a house, and so we're working at, like, there's so many things to do that you really have to prioritize, and it can be extremely difficult to do so, especially in a way that you can stay consistent and you can feel good about. And it's interesting, but let me get this workout written down. It is Wednesday squats. All right, there we go. So with that, I wanted to talk, obviously about consistency and the importance of it, but also how I've best stayed consistent, the things that I do. And it's a principle that's easier said than done. You can talk about working out every day. You can talk about being on a good routine, but unless you are, it's all talk. And so that's something I've had to really calibrate in my life, is the ability that I have to not only do my best to stick to a routine, which we'll talk about first, but then adapt when the routine almost seems like an impossibility with the amount of things going on. So anyway, I think it's something that everybody recognizes as an important aspect of life, but I think it separates, I don't want to say I think it separates high performers and people who are goal driven, their ability to perform consistently over time. But again, easier said than done. So first off, and sorry, I'm trying to get warmed up here. I'm actually feeling pretty good despite the break that I've had, which is surprising. So I guess that first element of consistency is how to be consistent. Um, and again, this is something I've thought of so much, both in the um, positive of like, oh, I've kind of learned this trick on how to be a little bit more consistent, or I I feel like I've been doing good with my routine for the past 2 months. So I have felt positivity and optimistic about my consistency, and then on the other side, more recently, I've felt absolutely disappointed and a little disheartened in my consistency, and I think that's normal. I mean, life happens, but it's hard not to get down on yourself when you don't have the ability to be as consistent as you want to be. And I say that um, as in, I don't want that to sound like there's ever like it's always a choice, right? But um, it comes down to sacrifice. So let me hit a set. All right. So I guess before I get into sacrifice, one of the things that is interesting is when I was in college, was working my own hours and had like a social life. I felt like that was when I was most consistent because there were really no pressures on my time. And I can't even lie and say that it was a very stressful time in my life because it really wasn't. Um, but I learned a lot in that time when I was able to be that consistent. And it was probably, I would say, I didn't miss a workout, like a gym workout, for probably 18 months. So a year and a half to 2 years. And yes, there was sickness. Yes, I probably took a few vacations and maybe missed a day or two in a week. But like consistently, I think I hit minimum 4 workouts a week for a year and a half. And it's crazy because you hear people talk about like the amount of time you have to put into any activity to see a lot of progress in it. And I think about it and I'm like, man, a year and a half of consistency really isn't that much. Like you look at professionals, Olympic athletes, granted I shouldn't be comparing myself, but they have 10 years of solid consistency, like that level of consistency under their belts, and probably even more consistent. Um, and that's what I'm trying to hit. Like that's an insane metric to put yourself against. So I guess initially, if you are in a position where there are not a lot of things pressing for your time, being consistent is definitely easier, um, but it takes a level of discipline to establish routines, and find ways in which you can be actively consistent. So hit a set and then go into that. All right, so routines. I don't know how people do it, or even if people do solid, consistent progress without having a routine. I'm sure someone's done it before, but it almost seems ineffective to wake up every day, have no plan, and then somehow achieve progression every day. Like I think it helps so much to have an intentional timeline every day that you can set yourself against. And so I guess my first tip for being consistent is establishing routines. And I will say that, like, I would say one of the best ways to establish consistency is to integrate routines. Like it just makes sense. When I think about the word routine, I feel like there's a connotation of consistency within that, so that every day you are in a pattern that reinforces your ability to be consistent. So, for instance, with my physical health, I noticed that when I was on a great routine, I would wake up in the morning, and I would work for, I think, maybe 5 hours. And I'd get up pretty early, like 5:36, and then around like 11:30 is when I would go to the gym, and it was every day, and it was awesome because, one, a lot of people weren't at the gym at 11 to 11:30, so I just kind of found this routine that I was able to stick to. And I'd get back from the gym, I felt great. I would finish up work in the afternoon, and then I had like the nighttime, to engage in hobbies and different activities and have a social life. And so I noticed that was a time in my life when I was really excited about the progress that I was making. So that first element of consistency is routine and habits. And I love the Aristotle quote. I don't know how it starts, but we are what we, hold on. The Aristotle quote, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." Love it. Like it shows that anyone can be a one-hit wonder, but it's those who engage in intentional routine and consistency that are able to achieve excellence. And I think that is absolutely a true principle. It just makes sense. So I always stand by that one. Oh, I love squats. I'm terrible at them, but they always feel like they're doing something. I think that is very apparent. Oh, there's another 10. So first tip of consistency, routine and habit. And then the second tip or concept about consistency is sacrifice. And this one, I guess the principle of sacrifice really comes in when you have a lot of things pressing on your time. And that's when I've noticed consistency is the hardest. So um, without giving too many personal details, my wife and I both work, and we have our kid who's still pretty much, I mean, he's a handful. He's not yet at the age yet where he's becoming self-reliant or dependent. So we're always in watch of him. And then we are renovating a house. And then on top of that, we travel a lot. We live somewhat close to both of our families. And so there's a lot of calls to her family or my family with different family events that we're responsible for making an appearance at. And so my wife and I have talked about this a lot recently, but there is an element of consistency that requires sacrifice. When there are so many demands on your time, you have to choose what things really matter. And that's been really hard for me because if I don't have that established routine and I'm not feeling good about the work that I'm doing every day and progressing, it's really hard for me to show up at all those other areas of life as my best self. And I trust that some of you are probably in that same realm, that there is an element of I need to take care of me before I can take care of all the other people and things in my life to the level that I would want to. And so that's something that I've had to really hone down on and discuss with my wife and figure out internally, is where's the spot where I'm most comfortable sacrificing some of the things that are demanding my time so that I can take care of myself and then perform better at work and at home with my family. And as we're traveling and spending time with the extended family, like, that's been a really hard principle for me. But I think it's empowering to be able to sacrifice and prioritize, but it's hard. And I think you have to lose the judgments of others when you're sacrificing elements of life for your own well-being, because family will get mad at you for not showing up to family events. Jobs won't get done because you had to not do a job so that you could go to the gym. Like, it's tough, but sacrifice is an essential element to consistency that I didn't really expect before. My ankle totally popped on that one. All right. Got one set left of these. We'll jump up to 185. Still a while away from where I was when I was consistent. Maybe that's something I can touch on for a sec, because I've noticed, specifically with the gym, because in the gym there are direct ties between numbers and your progress and your consistency. And it's been fascinating, discouraging, and motivating all at the same time to start working out again, and instead of squatting 315, I'm sitting here with 185. And it's like, man, I'm older, I should be better, but I've regressed almost to like a halfway point. And it's definitely hard to have that happen, especially if you are trying so hard to be consistent and there's things that are out of your control, like medical problems or family problems that absolutely demand you to kind of ditch your life for a little bit to take care of whatever those things are. And it can be extremely frustrating. And so I can relate to that. And yes, I know your squat and deadlift and bench are not the most important metrics of your life, but I do associate the gym and my health with my ability to be in a routine and to progress. And so I've noticed the times when I've been the most successful in my life are when I've been able to be consistent with everything. And so if my physical health is in good shape, I know that I've been decently consistent. But if I haven't worked out in 2 weeks and have been super busy and stressed, I know that it's like, oof, I'm not in the best place. And so that takes a mental toll as well of, geez, I could be doing better. And if you kind of get into that mindset, it can be a little disheartening. But all right, last set of squats. Beautiful. And I guess one embarrassing thing about recording this and having this whole talk be about consistency is I'm out of breath after these sets, which I can't remember the last time I was out of breath doing 5 reps of squats. So clearly I need to do better on my own consistency, but that's something I'm obviously working on, and hope that as I figure it out more, I will share what I'm doing, and hopefully that can impact and influence some of you as well, because I know how difficult consistency can be, but I also know how rewarding it can be when you're able to be consistent and see progress in your life and feel good about all your efforts. So I would want that for everybody, but it does take an impressive amount of discipline to be consistent. So anyway, with that, I'll probably cut this episode here. I'll finish off with my kettlebell lunges, but I hope everyone can take something from this and think about the consistency that you're going after, or maybe think of the goals that you're going after and the level of consistency that it would take to achieve those goals, and then figure out a way to do it. I know it'll require discipline. I know it'll require sacrifice, but those are the 2 elements that I think most directly impact one's consistency. And I know it's hard, but that's why the mantra of mine and this channel is one by one, because if you take things one by one, one day at a time, one activity at a time, one workout at a time, it changes the view of the mountain that you're trying to climb into small sections and smaller hills. And I've seen that be very helpful. So good luck. Keep going one by one.